Vamos, put up your manos. Members attempting unite Chicanos, Latinos, and los Estados Unidos. Don't care if you're Ricans or even Cubanos. Look at our coaches. We have more common, don't let them divide. These suckers are vultures. Either we standing together or better be standing aside. Now is the time, don't know about you, but I'm gonna ride. We gotta climb, fight for your Vegas, man, where was your pride? Where were the gunners that you got inside? Look how our ancestors came to this country. They tried to be living the American dream. Don't throw it away. They promise you money and got you raging for the machine. Pick a new team, you flesh socialism, but that is a system that you wanna bring. You need to think, we gotta fight communism, cause it look like we on the brink. Connect all the links, so one party system is taking the power from all of the people. We need to think, when will you listen, these people are evil and want you to sequel, so what is your plan? Hand in hand, we're standing together, cause it's the one never to do what you can. Please understand, we gotta do better, so walkers remember that we took a stand. Escúchame, 24 es el año, si se puede. Lucha, lucha por la libertad. Órale, vamos.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Latino Free Minds. We're at episode number 76, so we're chugging along there. Danny, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Just another what is it? Another Tuesday going by. Time's flying. How you doing?
Good. So on this episode, we have Mario, MP from LatinWealthClub. Mario, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys doing? Hope everyone's doing great. Ready to hurt some feelings, hopefully. I mean, now our guests probably don't get their feelings hurt, but just ready to, I think, just speak our minds and talk about what's going on in our current situation with our country and the world.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's kind of what we do, right? Just speak our minds, and we're not so into how people take it or not. It's just, sometimes you have to have conversations, and maybe they're not comfortable ones, or conversations people don't want to necessarily have, but we'll have them here. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So just to kind of get started, tell the people a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do, and just kind of how we came across you, basically.
So I'm a young entrepreneur. I run LatinWealthClub, the podcast. We talk about entrepreneurship, fitness, mental toughness, pretty much anything having to do related with success and what it takes to be successful. And a key role to that is actually politics. People don't realize that policies affect business, and business affects your money, right? So it's a trickle effect. It's a domino effect. And I try to explain that to other young Latinos. I'm only 24, so born in 1999. So, I'm a Gen Z. I'm a Gen Z young man, and a lot of people in my generation disagree with my mindset. But I get it from, being raised in a conservative Catholic family, went to church every Sunday, was raised with the morals and values of being a good Christian. So, just applying those morals and values to my life and to my country, I came to realize in high school back in 2016 that I was a Trump supporter. But at that time, it just wasn't a good thing to do. It was pretty much like how back in the day it was like coming out of the closet as gay. You just couldn't do it, I guess, So I kept quiet, but that's when I really found out my political identity. And also my economics teacher is the one that called me out one time and asked if I was a Republican because of the way I was answering questions. But yeah, no, man, just pretty much just a full-time entrepreneur that's very passionate in what he does, tries to spread knowledge, tries to help other entrepreneurs out that are, that might not have guidance, that might need guidance and want to look for some motivation. I also show recognition to other Latino entrepreneurs with interviews and stuff like that. But yeah, man, just into politics and want to change my country for the better and want to share knowledge.
Cool. Yeah. And how long have you been doing your podcast?
So I've been doing the podcast for a little over a year and a half now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it's good. I was telling Danny, you kind of touch on all kinds of, like you said, just like you described, your entrepreneurship, mental health, politics. So you kind of try to hit on a lot of different things, which is pretty good.
Well,
And
I
like you
mean, I was
said,
inspired by the guy that wears the same hat as you on his podcast.
yeah, this dude's a
So
G.
Andy Frisella there,
Yeah.
he was the one that pretty much inspired me to do this. But the thing is that the people I would listen to in podcasts didn't look like me. They
Mm.
couldn't relate to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to be that person for someone else. And I figured, why not be one of the first Latino podcasters doing this?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I was getting my education from like Andy Frisella, he's Italian. Ed Milet, he's Italian. Grant Cardone, he's Italian. So I'm getting all this knowledge from European folks, and I mean, it's like, why not have someone that could relate to me, might look like me, might have the same background as me, try to show
Mm-hmm.
me, right? And the thing about our community is that we gatekeep a lot, and I want to change that. So that's why I started my podcast.
Yeah,
Mm.
we always joke around about that gatekeeping because in a lot of ways it's holding you back and pushing you down. So it's a good thing that
Yes,
you're
it
doing
is.
to
I talk
recognize
about
that.
it.
Yeah, I I
It's
tell this
it's very
story.
unfortunate, man.
Yeah, and it happens all the time, and people don't even recognize that it's happening. At
Yeah,
my the job that I had before, I was having a conversation with a young man. He was a lot younger than me, and I was talking exactly about what you're talking about right now, the gatekeeping. And I go, the crazy thing is that it's even your family that does it. And he started paying attention to what I was telling him, and he goes, "Hey, you know what? That happened to me." I told my mom and dad that I wanted to start a business, and they turned around and said, "Tú, tú vas a tener un negocio," and started putting them down and started questioning them. And he didn't realize that that was happening until we started having that conversation. So you starting
yeah.
that conversation, is helping a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly the type of people I'm trying to target, man. And it's like, again, it's very unfortunate that a lot of our parents are closed-minded like that. Fortunate for me though, at least on my mom's side, they come from old money in Mexico, so a lot of them down in Mexico. I'm pretty much put it this way: out of my mom's family, I'm the only American. Everyone else is still down south. Everyone else is they're fresas. That's what they are.
Mhm.
They're pretty much frat boy Mexicans. That's the best way to describe my guy cousins. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Um, they grew up totally different from me. I grew up here in LA. I grew up with the Chicano scene. You know, damn near borderline scratching, game banging, stuff like that. So I grew up totally different from them. But when I would go down there, I came to realize like, what the fuck? These people are rich out here. Like, I'm staying in mansions. They have servants. They have people that clean their clothes, cook their breakfast. I'm like, why did we leave? But come and find out, my mom left because she married my dad. It's out of love. But going down there, that's where I got my entrepreneur side. That's where I started learning about stocks. That's where started learning about investments and stuff like that. Because my godfather down there was actual financial advisor for a private bank. So I pretty much was like, what? He's pretty much a stockbroker. What? That's crazy. I didn't know he had that down there, right? Because when you're growing up in California, everyone sees Mexico as like a ranch, dirt roads. They don't see it as like the Mexico I was living. And it was hard for me to like put the two together because even then I would say things to my family down there and they were like, "We don't live in a ranch. What are you talking about?" They're like, "Why are you disrespecting our place? Like, when you come over here, you look great." And I was kind of like, because when they would be like, "Oh, like let's go eat sushi," I'm like, "You guys have sushi?" And they'd be like, "What do you think this is, a rancho?" Because that's the way they talk. It's kind of
Yeah.
the same way people from Rancho put down rich Mexicans put down poor Mexicans. It's just the way it works down there. Their classes, their colors is very unfortunate. It's like true racists down there.
Yeah, I
So I'd
always
be
point that
tripping, bro.
out
I'd be
is
like, what the
that
fuck do you mean? Like, and they would take me to places and I'm like, oh, damn, you guys have the same exact stuff here. But yeah, that's how pretty much I got into entrepreneurship was my family down in Mexico. And like I said, I'm literally the only American on my mom's side. And I also got my politics from them. They're conservative down there. So no, we do not vote for Morena. We did not vote for Andres, and we did not vote for this Jewish woman.
It's funny because like when we were first gonna have you on, the original date, I think was
Yeah,
that same week, right? When they had the election. So that
the,
was one of the
the
questions I was gonna ask you. Is like, what are your thoughts? How do you because like you said, you're more in tune with what's going on in Mexico. How do
Oh yeah,
you think that happened? Why did they choose that lady, or did she get selected, or
it's
you know what I mean? Well, what's
it's the
your
same
opinion?
thing, bro. It's just look, bro. 90% of Mexico is poor. 90% of Mexico lives below the poverty line, right? When you're giving those people free scholarships and you're giving them welfare, what do you think is going to happen in the next election? And then
Mm,
you have the same president running off the same agenda the last president ran with. What do you expect? It's literally a Joe Biden to Obama. See what I'm
mm,
saying? It's the
mm-hmm,
same, pretty much same thing, same agenda. The people are gonna want the same stuff. You know
mm,
what I'm saying? Now I have heard some good stories. Like I have buddies that are more from indigenous descent. They're from states like Tlaxcala. I'm not. It's like it's one of those states where the Mexicas were, the pretty much the traders of the Aztecs. And then another buddy of mine that's I met later on from Yucatan, pretty much telling me how the Mexican government has pretty much forgotten the indigenous people and the indigenous communities, and how that party, the Morena party, has actually helped them. So they've seen some benefits from it. So I can understand that, right? Because, like I said in the beginning, Mexico is colorist and classist, and that's a fact. I've seen it with my own eyes. You know what I'm saying? It's just facts. It's very unfortunate, but it's true. So to hear that that party actually helped the people of color and of indigenous descent, that's actually I would say a pretty decent win, right? But the thing is that in at least in our side of Mexico, it's a lot of people that abuse drugs, a lot of ghetto people, a lot of people that just abuse the system, which we call los ninis. We call them ninis because they feed off the government.
Hmm, interesting. And you know what the crazy thing is that a lot of people here, you ask them about the government in Mexico, and right away they'll tell you that it's corrupt. And then
Yeah,
they're
it definitely is.
and then and the United States government is doing things similar to that, maybe not as open in the public eye, but they're doing similar things like that, and they would never think or say that the American government is corrupt.
No,
And
so American
I've got
government is
family
definitely
members
corrupt.
that are on that boat right there.
Yeah, the American government is definitely corrupt. The Mexican government is definitely corrupt. It continues to be corrupt. I mean, just look what happened with El Chapo's son. They caught him, and then the cartel hizo un pinche desmadre en Juliacan, which is the Juliacanazo. And what did Lopez Obrador do? He freed him, and he said,
let
"No
him go.
bullets. We want hugs, not bullets." Bro, you're bending over to the cartel. What kind of presidency is that?
Yeah, no, I remember when that happened. That was wild. I think most of the stuff you saw, well, being over here, if you were on Twitter, you saw people posting videos of just how wild it was going out there trying to get that guy back, and it was crazy. People out in the
And they
streets
listened.
just
The
shooting
government
and
listened,
everything.
bro.
Yeah.
It's not like the government said no. Like the government literally said, "Let's not put up a fight because we don't want casualties."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
That
But
was.
like I keep telling people, you guys keep voting this way. The only thing that's going to cause is for America to invade, because it'll get to the point where communism is going to turn communist. Because if you look, I'm actually going to come out with an article about this on the LatinWealthClub blog about
Mhm.
how the Morena party is pretty parallel to Hugo Chavez Venezuela.
Mm. Yeah, you
You
can't have
know,
that that
Yeah.
so
close.
exactly. So if it does get to that point, what's gonna what at what corner are you gonna put America on? Are you gonna put them in the corner of invading, or
Yeah.
at least having CIA ops in there and pretty much disrupting the country? Because that's what we do. I mean, it's the facts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're putting it out in movies more and more, and there's, telling us the truth, but even with them telling us the truth, people don't open their eyes and they don't recognize it.
Exactly. I mean, and it's kind of a good thing that we do it because some countries don't deserve to be in power. Personally,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's
so
like allowing North Korea to take over. You don't want that.
yeah. So
Yeah,
what do
but
you, go ahead, Danny.
no, and before the show, we were kind of talking about the difference between a republic and democracy, and there's a huge difference in that. And I right now, since we're talking about different governments, I think it's important to point out that the difference between the United States is that we have a constitution, and that's basically what a republic means. Is that it operates under a charter or constitution,
Well, we're
and
a
it,
constitutional republic.
yeah, exactly. And a democracy is just governed and ruled by the
The
majority
majority.
class,
Yeah,
right?
Mm-hmm.
but they
So,
changed the terms.
yeah, but nevertheless, it goes back to that. So what people need to understand is that a lot of these people that are migrating to the United States, they don't understand why they're migrating over here. They just think it's a better country. But what makes it a better country, or it used to make it a better country, if we want to use it in the past tense, and it's because of the almighty Constitution, the Constitution that I believe no other country in the world has one like it.
Of course. But the thing about it too is you're allowing Venezuelans in. See, the thing about Venezuelans is they weren't forced to go socialist. If you look what happened in Venezuela, they gladly, happily voted it in. See what I'm saying? You go to Mexico and you have a lot of Venezuelan immigrants stuck in Mexico and they don't want to work. All they're asking for is donations to get to the United States. See what I'm saying? So it seems like, unlike Haitian immigrants that are stuck in Mexico, Haitian immigrants actually find jobs, actually sometimes even stay in Mexico and prosper in Mexico. See what I'm saying? So it's very unfortunate that we're allowing certain countries in that voted socialism in that will potentially in the future become a socialist cancer to the United States. You
Yeah.
know, I would much rather have Haitians because I've seen it in Mexico. They're, like I said, hardworking individuals. They obviously do not look Hispanic because they're more of, black descent. But they are really, really hardworking. They'll literally go to Mexico, learn the language, and learn how the economy works and prosper. I've seen it with my own with my own eyes. I go down there at least once a year, so I'm down there and I'm kind of updated of what goes on. I know my family, whenever they see, because the train goes through Aguascalientes, which is where my family's at, sometimes they'll see migrants on the train. Sometimes they'll give them some money for food, or sometimes they'll buy them for food because they understand they're in a journey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's crazy. Now, and getting a different perspective and understanding, kind of like what you're giving and what's seen in actual, in Mexico and other countries, um, it's really important because the media just presents one side to us, and that's it. And let's just face it, it's just propaganda at this point. They're not even news, and I think more and more people are starting to understand that. That's why you're seeing a turn in the tide. I think everybody's
Oh
seen
yeah,
it, right? I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
you you see it, right? Even being in LA,
yeah, and
you see the
actually, a lot of
difference.
people I talk to see it, bro. I mean, when you can't afford groceries and you can't afford gas, your simple necessities to live, I think you must see it unless you're brainwashed or you're LGBT that takes everything emotional.
Mm.
Hmm. You were gonna say something, Daniel?
No, no. Well, go ahead. I kind of have a question, but it'll kind of take it away from this a little bit.
Well, the thing is, this is that take aside the emotional um, side of it, and even with everything that's happening right now, and all the distractions, everything that's going with Trump. We just went through COVID. You had mentioned COVID earlier. Um, I don't know how you feel about this, but it seems like it's a huge distraction from what's really happening, and it's changing this country. Um, and I think people are starting to understand that and see it. And you just made the point about, you start seeing the difference in cost of living and things like that. Do you do you, do you think that people are starting to recognize that, or is it just because the cost of living?
It's just because of the cost of living. People don't
Okay.
understand the policies behind it. People don't understand that there's a pedophile agenda behind it. They don't understand. Sorry, my dog just tried running in here. um,
It's the
they don't
feds.
understand that there's a pedophile behind, like a pedophile agenda behind it. They don't understand that there's a sex trafficking agenda behind it. They don't understand that there's a property rights behind it, where people could squat in properties, make fake leases, and have the owner like not be able to kick them out. You know, you're having also where parents aren't informed about their kids' gender identity, which is fed to them by public schooling and protected by public schooling now. You know, not only that, but yeah, pedophiles that don't are pretty much getting slapped on the wrist because of laws that are being changed. But parents, they're only waking up because once again, because gas is high, groceries are high. You know, they're more worried about. They're more stuck on the matrix. They're more stuck in the matrix, working every day, working their 9 to 5s, making sure they're putting food on the table. They're not worried about what's going on with their kids' mental health and what's going on with certain right? Because they don't have enough time for that. And that's the thing about America is that a lot of Americans are so stuck up on this rat race matrix that they don't realize what's truly going on.
And you reference, your age, you're young, you're 24, and you're kind of going against the grain with your generation. Tell us a little bit about that. Do they see some of what you're talking about right now, or is it just you kind of sticking out like a or some thumb?
So, so at first, everyone thought I was weird because when my parents are immigrants, I have obviously family members that are undocumented and stuff like that. So, like on my dad's side, so my parents actually grew up in the same place. Actually, they grew up as family friends. But my dad's side, they all moved over here, and they all have jobs. They're all longshoremen. If you're familiar with the job, they're pretty much LA port workers. They unload, upload the shipping container and stuff like that. Any stuff, anything that comes in through the LA port, they're working on it, right? Um, and the thing about them is that they're so democratic brainwashed because of the union, because of pretty much the union gets bought out by politicians. The politicians go and have them vote for them, right? So they're brainwashed, and it's unfortunate that in my generation they can't see different because when you're raised in an immigrant family and you're raised in a union family, you can't see between the lines. You can't see anything outside that box.
Oh, we lost him.
We lost it. Yeah.
Yeah, he started to break up right there at the end. So we'll see if we get him back
Yeah,
in.
the audio was pretty bad.
Okay.
No.
But no, I
What
mean,
was it that you're gonna bring up?
no, I was gonna ask him because we were kind of talking about California and what he had said before we came on. Is he seeing the positive, and if the results in November would, change his decision based on, leaving the state or anything like that? Just kind of see what,
Mm,
because I mean, yeah, California's crazy, right? But let me see. I think he's coming back in. But at the same time, I don't know. Like you said, right? You'd be optimistic. It's like you see it kind of nudging
yeah.
in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Well, everybody sees, you know, we're not all stuck in a echo chamber. We have different circles. Geographically, they'll change from one area to a different area. So it's always important to see, what they're experiencing in their area.
There we go. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. I don't know
Yeah.
what happened. It just all blacked out.
Yeah, your audio started glitching up pretty bad, and then
Yeah,
all of a sudden you disappeared.
Okay. It might be my Wi-Fi. I know my Wi-Fi is kind of crappy in my apartment, so I apologize in advance.
no, it's all good, man. But what I was gonna ask you, because what you said about moving out and all that. I kind of see California, right? Obviously, it has its issues, um, but I also kind of see it going like I feel like there's a shift, little by little, going in the right direction.
It's a done
Like,
deal, bro.
so, okay, so if the election in November, right? Do any of those results weigh on your mind, or is it just kind of like you said, like a done deal for you? You're out.
Done deal. Better than since COVID.
But you
As
don't
See,
far
you
the thing with
as
me
looking,
though is that I had a detailing business, and I'm not gonna go to Texas with detailing business start all over. So my plan for the last couple of years was to build up my podcast,
mhm.
and trying to find a way to make money off of that. So that way, when I move out there, one, I'm buying income properties and making money off real estate, but two, also I'm just fully focused and fully intact with my podcast.
Okay.
okay, and then that's a good segue into how politics play into being an entrepreneur and running a business. So, are you saying that in California it's a lot harder to do that? Be an entrepreneur, running a business.
No, definitely not. It's actually a lot of money. There's a lot. The market's really good here. The thing about it though is that you get taxed up the ass.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, would I rather? I mean, I could detail in Texas, but it's probably not going to be the same amount of market. So I'd rather just get into real estate and invest my money there and build passive income through that. Um, but would I rather stay in California and end up getting massively rich, successful, and end up paying 60% in taxes? I think not.
Okay. And then I guess what Daniel was going to ask is, depending on how the elections go, local elections, even that's one of the biggest things that we've been talking about. It's a done deal. It doesn't matter in what direction it might be going.
Doesn't matter. No,
Mm.
to me, I think California's been a done deal for a long time. I mean, I've talked to I used when I go to Laughlin, I'll talk to some of the waitresses because they'll ask us where we're from. We'll say California, and a lot of them moved in the '90s because they thought it was
Mm.
a done deal in the '90s. So
Good.
keep in mind how long has this slippery slope has been going on.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's
You
been
know,
in a
I mean,
decline
I
for a long
also
period
have
of time.
this mentality other than my generation too, is because I live on my own. My girlfriend and I we moved out like almost 3 years ago now, or 2.5 years for sure. So we have a whole different like thought process and everything because we actually pay our own bills. Best way for me to put it, I pay for the damn toilet paper I wipe my ass with. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people in my generation cannot relate to that.
You see, and that's a good perspective right there. Is that I was having a conversation with a gentleman, and I live in Stockton. Daniel lives in Fresno, but we both grew up in San Jose in the Bay Area. And one of the reasons that I moved away is because I got started young with a family and I couldn't afford to buy a house. So the only place I could be able to afford to buy a house is in the Central Valley. So that's why I moved away. So, anyways, I was having this conversation with this gentleman about 2 weeks ago, and he moved from Fremont, the Bay Area as well. And we started talking about his kids, and he was concerned that they were not going to be able to go out on their own and be independent because everything is just outrageous expensive, as far as owning a home and everything in general. But specifically, we were talking about purchasing a home. Um, and that is a real concern. And I actually had never thought about that perspective is the 18-year-old to 22-year-olds that are trying to start their lives off on their own and not even having a fighting chance to get started, period, because they have to, depend on their parents.
Yeah, well, luckily for me, I had a really good chance. I was actually going to buy a property at 21. For other reasons, it didn't end up happening. Um, and I pretty much, later on was grateful it didn't happen because then I learned about the laws of how they protect the renter over the landlord. And do I really want that as a landlord? No.
Mm.
So why? I mean, even though California has tremendous amount of again market and money and liquidation and everything when it comes to real estate and everything, but when I sell, do I really want to pay all those taxes? And then when I improve or renovate a property, do I really want to go through all those permits? It's just a lot of things you got to look towards. And not only that, but if someone starts paying rent, do I really want to wait 6 months for an eviction?
Hmm.
It's just things to take into account. At least for me, that I think in a bigger picture, and I think about massive success and how I envision my life 10 years from now. It's just not going to work out for me.
Yeah. No, and I get it because in some ways, the way that said it and worded it in the beginning, it sounded like, it's a done deal. There's no saving it. Almost like a pessimistic, view of what
Yeah.
California is going to be. And, and the reason that we can have conversations is because there's perspective from all kinds of different angles. And let's say, for example, I've got kids, I've got grandkids, and they're here in California, and we noticed the fight that a lot of people are having, with exactly what you said earlier about the hidden agenda, or not so hidden anymore, about pedophilia agenda. And there's a lot of people standing up, making some noise about that. Hopefully we have some good local representation here that changes things like that, that is looking pretty positive. I mean, it's looking more positive than it ever has in the past, and that's something that we have noticed a difference in. But I totally get what you're saying from your perspective.
I mean, yeah, and not only that, but I moved to a better area in my city. So I grew up in, you could say, the ghetto, the hood, and I ended up moving to a better area in my city. So it's not like I also downgraded, moved, to somewhere far to afford it. No, I stayed in my city and moved to a better area. Just that, is this the future? No. Is this where I want to be? No. Not only that, but crime. Crime has gone up.
Mm,
I mean, I have a screenshot of just last week where we woke up at 5 in the morning and there was about 5 to 6 shootings just around my house.
Wow,
So, I
that's
mean, just
crazy.
let that sink in. Do I really want that for my kids? Not only that, but I grew up in walking to school and seeing bums shooting up heroin, smoking meth. Do I really want my kids to see that going to school? No, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
No, and that's I was talking with Christian, my cousin, the other guy we have on the show, and we were talking about how how much different it is from when we grew up. Like Danny said, we grew up in San Jose to today, right? It's like, yeah, there's no way that when I was young, we would walk for miles on our own. We'd take the bus for on our own, just the kids, and we were young. But it's like nowadays, it's like no, it ain't gonna happen, right? I wouldn't allow my kids to do what I did, and it's not that I wouldn't trust them. It's just I don't trust the society that's around them now.
Well, I mean,
Like you said.
LA's been like this for many years, bro. LA's been a fucking war zone for many years, a drug zone for many years. Um, it's been like this for years. It's gang infested. It's hood versus hood. It's very very bad out here. And the thing is that when you're a young Hispanic man, you're a target. So it just really depends how you carry yourself. Good thing for me, I didn't dress the part. I stopped doing that in middle school. So back when I was in high school, I didn't dress the part. Actually, people thought I was half white because of the way I dressed, which is hilarious. But I also grew up in a city that was diverse. I didn't grow up in no East LA. I didn't grow up in no Wilmington, which is like the next city over from where I live, which is just straight Hispanic, right? I grew up in an area where it's fairly diverse with Mexicans, Italians, and Croatians.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I mean, like I said, based on our experience, like San Jose, I think like it wasn't that bad when we were growing up. Um, yeah, it was gangs was a thing for sure. Like
Yeah.
you had to make sure you weren't wearing too much red or too much blue, and
See, we didn't
stuff like
have to
that.
worry about that over here.
That was like the one thing, right? You didn't want to give off the wrong vibe or whatever. So you kind of made sure you didn't, you weren't wearing that kind of stuff. But as far as
Yeah.
like, going to the park, doing that stuff, like you could do it. But now throughout the years, you know what I mean? I'm gonna be 38, so from then till now, it's like you see the deterioration of the city. Like you said, man, you
Yeah.
see
I
you
get,
see homeless people everywhere, to where like the streets that I used to walk when I was a kid, like they used to be clear. You know what I mean? There you didn't see that stuff. Now it's like, yeah, there's homeless people everywhere around any corner. Any empty lot. You just don't know. All the crazy shit that kids are exposed to nowadays. just going if they wanted to go to a park. So
Yeah.
but it is different times, and it's all out there. But I think that's one of the reasons we focus a lot on local representation, because if people don't uh, focus
Focus
on
on it.
that,
Yeah.
then they don't know what they're voting for, and then you get that dumbass that goes in there and decriminalizes this and that, and then and then you just see it going more and more and more to crap. So that's why we put a huge focus on the local stuff, to be like, all right, well, know who you're voting for, because whatever these people do in your city, it's going to affect you, you know, right away and quicker. Yeah, obviously there's like the presidential stuff, and that has effects too. But your local government is they're gonna determine if your city gets cleaned up or if it just keeps going down the hole.
Now, I will say one thing, right? You mentioned something about colors. We didn't really have to worry about colors. Over here is wearing baseball teams. Their hats.
Yeah.
So
Oh
with
yeah.
us, we're not worried about red or blue. I know that's a upstate thing, but down here, it's what baseball team hat are you wearing?
Mm.
And that will determine your affiliation or your city or your neighborhood.
Mm.
Because again, it's just a little bit different. Now, I will say one thing though. Even though I grew up with crackheads on my block, hey man, there's some crackheads, bro, they were cool. Like, we would be walking to school and we had nicknames for them. And so, for example, like there was this one guy, he was disabled, weirdo. I wouldn't, man. He would, I don't know. He would always be talking to the kids. I don't, as an adult now, I'm like, why the fuck was he out talking to us, right? But we called him Dollar Boy because every time, because he was disabled and he lived on disability, he'd come out with a load of cash and be showing his dollar bills. So we called him Dollar Boy. There's this guy on my block. His name was Oscar. We actually knew him by his name. He was pretty much a tweaker on our block. But I'll tell you one thing though, no cars ever got broken into our block. So we actually liked him because it was like he was like taking care of the block. It was he was always out, and it's like all the other surrounding streets, the cars would get broken into. You would see broken glass on them, but our street never. And I think it's because he was there, or for example, in elementary school, there's an avenue called Gaffey Street, right? There was a crackhead lady that we called the Gaffey lady. Everyone in the city knows her. It's like that's the thing about, I can't sit here and talk too much too down on the tweakers, because they're a part of my childhood, man. And some of them, like Oscar, when he overdosed, it was kind of sad to see, that he's not on the block no more. He's not there, just maybe passed out on the sidewalk because he drank too much. So I will say that growing up in that environment, some of it's bad and some of it is good, man, because you'll make memories from it. Because sometimes, bro, those people, they can be, como mi mamá dice, andan en sus locuras, pero they still respect other people surrounding them.
Mm.
They're
To
still
show that
like people,
they're
and they still
still
have a
good
moral
people.
mind. They still have morals and values in a sense.
Yeah. There's good people in unfortunate situations. We don't know what they went through growing up.
Mhm.
We might be, I can speak for myself. I was blessed that, my mother and father were there in my life, set a good example, and I had a better, chance at having a, okay life than, the person that was born, crack baby, drug addict. Parents weren't there, went through the
Oh
foster
yeah.
system and stuff like that.
I
So
mean, I
yeah,
have buddies, bro. I have buddies that their whole family were gang members. And I have a buddy right now. He's unfortunately, he went to the rival city, and 2 people lost their lives. Best way for me to describe it, right? And now he's facing life, right? And a lot of people, when I tell them, oh, that was actually my best friend growing up, they're like, oh, he's they start calling him all these names, and I'm like, bro, you didn't even know him like that. I'm like, you don't know that. First and foremost, his father wasn't in the picture. All his brothers were gang members. His mother was a gang member. All his sisters were maybe not gang members, but they were around that lifestyle. So do you really blame the kid for becoming what his surroundings were, what his environment was?
He
The
didn't know
kid was
better,
walking home at 7
basically.
years old. You know what I'm saying? He didn't know better, bro. And actually, when I speak to some of the homies in my city that know him, he's actually a well respected guy in their lifestyle because of the way he carried himself. But why did he carry himself? Because he had all that knowledge from previous generations in his family,
Mhm.
you know, in his own lifestyle and stuff like that. Do I agree with it? No. But do I blame him? I don't either.
Yeah, some people are just victims of their environment, what their
Yeah.
surrounding. There's nothing that I mean, there's something you can definitely do about it, but like you said, and we were just mentioning right now, is maybe they didn't have that moral support that they needed to stay away. They weren't strong enough on their own not to fall
Or
for
they
those
had that moral
temptations.
support to actually continue and to
Yeah,
prosper in that.
yeah, yeah. No, there's definitely a lot of unfortunate situations, but that's life, and it's something that we've got to deal with. And one thing that I did want to bring up is, whatever's happening here in California, I think everybody's heard this before, is that if California falls, the rest of the country falls, because you know I believe that we're like in this big social experiment in California, maybe New York, and maybe some other cities like in Seattle or whatnot are part of it, because this is engineered. Everything that's happening that we're experiencing right now. You talked about violence. That's engineered. The whole defund the police situation and everything like that. That's a movement that I don't think it started grassroots, from the people. It was given to us and it was presented in certain situations so that they can, give it wings and, make it fly. And I mean, I saw TV shows where they were talking about defunding the police and stuff like that. So, Hollywood, politicians, media's pushing it. And I guess the point that I'm trying to make is happens here, it's going to trickle over to the other states. So it's going to come to like how you asked, we get to a point is when do we say is enough and put up a stand?
Now, I will stop you right there. The only way it'll trickle down to other states is because the people that will be moving from here to those states are voting the same way. It wouldn't be because people are changing their minds. It'll only
Oh
be
no, it's
because
going to be the
there's.
same tactic that they use here is just going to be implemented in another state.
I don't think so, man. I think the way people vote in other states have shown that. Not only that, but you mentioned Seattle. I went to Seattle for December, and I literally was walking around to 7-Eleven at 3 in the morning. And the only time we seen homeless people was once, and we didn't like, bro. I felt like I was walking in the park compared to LA.
Yeah. Maybe it depends
Like
on
to me,
maybe if you compare it to
Seattle looks
LA,
like a square ass city to me
but
personally, and I was in
yeah,
downtown Seattle.
well, check this out. My brother-in-law lives there, and
Okay.
we hear the stories, and it's pretty bad. My wife actually went to go out and visit him, and you know, beautiful apartment from what they told me, glass from the ceiling to the floor. But the bad part about it is you could see the homeless defecating on the other side of it, type of
Mm.
thing. You
Yeah, I
know?
know. When I was over there, bro,
Uh,
I was literally, like I said, downtown Seattle. We would get hungry in the middle of the night. We would literally leave and
Yeah.
walk. Broad night, everything. Obviously, I do um, promote and I do encourage the two way, so you can know I was not, I was not unsafe. But I didn't. I literally felt safer than anywhere else, and that's the thing, right? We did hear when we were looking at Seattle, my girlfriend and I go, "Oh, we should move here. Like this is perfect, right?" And but I started looking at policies. I started looking at stuff like that, and I seen that they were tilting that way. So I don't think they're fully there like LA or the rest of California, but I think they are tilting to that point.
You see, and that's the
Um,
point I'm trying to make is here in California, Bay Area, LA, certain cities, that's where a lot of these policies are being
are
implemented.
starting.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And now you're starting to see them. We spoke about Austin. You think it's just going to stop in Austin, in Texas? It's
Well,
it's
that's
one
the
of those
thing. It's
things.
all because of the migration of California. So that you got to keep that in mind too, right? So it's the majority of Californians where they're moving, and those are where the blue like little bubbles are popping out because they're going over there and not changing their way of thinking and their way of life because they think, oh, we're just going here over here because it's affordable. We're not going over here because these policies are what's making it affordable, right? They're just ignorant to the fact, or they're just uneducated.
Exactly, but look at Idaho too. Is everybody was gung ho about Idaho, at least over here in the Central Valley, Northern California. And I just saw some articles about, the natives there, being irate about everything that's happening to their area because of everybody moving over there. So they're starting to see those changes come. Actually, how long has it been since Idaho has been the spot to move to, Daniel? It's been
Uh,
what, like
it's
8 years, 8 years, 10 years?
something like that. Like when I kind of first heard about like, oh, people should move there, because I mean Idaho, I mean Texas is obviously red, but like Idaho
Hmm.
is like, it's like 90% to 10%. Like Idaho is red.
Like
And a lot of
red
people are
hot red.
moving there. Yeah, yeah. And a lot of people are moving over there or have been. So that's just the thing, right? Kind of what you're both saying. It's like people from here move and, for whatever reason. But yeah, a lot of them just move, yeah, for affordability. And like Mario says, like, yeah, they don't consider the policy, right? And then there's people that move because they know it's the policy here that makes it unaffordable, so they go over there. It's like vice versa. The reason they move, so it's like they're both connected, but it's like one end or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
And
know,
but that
I did want to mention, and I forgot to mention this when we are talking about California. I think the only way California would be saved is if we get a crazy governor, right? Like something that happened in El Salvador, something that happened to Argentina. You know, we get someone that just goes in there and demolishes everything Newsom did and just
Mhm.
changes everything all up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will that happen? Probably not, because when we tried recalling Newsom, that was a fluke.
Mm. Well, that's the thing
what
too. When Newsom was going up against Brian Dolly, the last governor election, like we were talking, me and Danny, and it's like, dude, that dude could have like gone so hard at Newsom, and he was just like being passive. It's like,
Well,
yeah,
it's
you
because
need
California's corrupt, bro. I mean, you got to think about. I mean, do you know who Newsom is related to?
Pelosi and all of them.
Pelosi?
Oh, there. Okay, so you do know that. So
Yeah.
you could just know how corrupt California is with that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
not only that, but if you really look into the history of California, it's only a couple families that run it.
Yeah. No, that
You
is
know,
true, but it's kinda like, you brought up, El Salvador, is that you think about El Salvador, and it's like that was the most one of the most corrupt, countries per capita
of course.
in I I don't even know what the range would be, but, everybody agrees that it was very corrupt. And how did this president get into power right now? And I think it's one of those things where there's a point where people go, enough is enough, we're crossing the line. And Daniel and I had always spoken about this, is that when you start messing with people's kids and their money, that's probably the line right there. And everything that's been happening, with the whole pedophile agenda, everybody sees it. It's out in the open right now, and I think that's what's opened a lot of eyes right there.
Man, we'll call me a conspiracy theorist, bro, but I was a big Alex Jones guy growing up. And
Mhm.
I do believe that these processed foods and chemicals in our foods um, is what's turning a lot of people gay. Like it sounds crazy, but it's something I do truly believe. Because when you do eat processed foods or you eat fast food or you eat this bullshit that they're feeding you, you feel different. You're gonna tell me not? I mean, think about the way your mental state is when you cook at home compared to when you buy food. You feel
Yeah.
cloudy. You're not as focused. Now imagine eating that every day. You know, Alex Jones, again, a crazy guy, right? Talking about
Hey,
how they were trying to
before you go
turn
any further,
frogs
you
gay.
you don't have to add the crazy Alex Jones,
Yeah.
because he's the one that woke me up,
Okay.
and, a lot of the things that he were conspiracy theories, we call them
Come
conspiracy.
out true.
Conspiracy
Yeah,
facts.
so
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is like at that time, bro, it was 2013 when I was listening to them. I was only like 12 or 13, and I was listening to about the lizard people. So that was kind of hard to believe, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
at this point, I don't doubt it, But am I crazy about it? No, right? But what I'm saying though is like I do believe like the fact that we have all these crazy ingredients in our food,
Mm-hmm.
it's causing a lot of people not to think logically. I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like it's causing them to like be easily brainwashed, right? And I can tell you this from experience because I'll eat like shit for a long time, and I become lazier. I could become less productive. So I can only imagine doing that for your whole life for a couple of years, and you're gonna become to the point where you want to be dependent.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because of the chemicals in the food, but when I start eating clean, I'm working out every day. I'm more laser focused. I'm more intact with my goals and with what I want to do. So, like I said, I don't know what it is, but it came to the realize where I personally tried it with my body, and I've seen what they've been talking about, conspiracy theories and stuff like that, and I truly do believe that what they're feeding us is kind of what's allowing a lot of people to be easily brainwashed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example about brainwashing in our Latino community, right? When our immigrant parents moved from Mexico to here, a lot of them are Catholic, right? So they're raised conservative, right? Um, and they come over here, and yet they're voting for a party that doesn't stand with their moral values,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now in Mexico they do it again because, like I said, because they're poor and because they're kind of like gaining votes with despensas. Despensas are pretty much just gifts, like
Mm-hmm.
groceries and stuff like that, right?
Welfare.
Yeah, welfare, exactly what it is. Um, but here it's like they're doing it because they're feeding you bullshit, and then you get sick, and they want you to get dependent on them. So once you're dependent on them, you can't think any other way because you're like, oh, the Republicans want to take this away, the Republicans want to take that away, and it gets to a point where it's like, interesting, where did this all start, right? And then you
Yeah.
start kind of going into the conspiracies and stuff like that. But do I think you could change people's minds? No, because even then, it's like people are so open to like the gay agenda, right? Just the other day on Facebook, I was on my city page, and they were going to host a pride event, and a lot of us conservative men were there just talking shit in the comments, right? And people were saying like, because I would I put a Bible verse where it literally talks about, at least in the Catholic Bible, I know in the Protestant Bibles it says sexual immortality, but ours literally says homosexuality. Um, and I posted that, and a lot of people were like, "Well, I believe in a God that loves everybody," and I'm like, okay, you guys are now trying to use God to justify pride. Like, I won't. This doesn't make sense to me. This doesn't make sense to me. But the comments, what their argument was like, oh, you're using God and you're using the word of God. Well, doesn't God love everybody? Or they're posting memes with saying that Jesus was gay. And it's like, bro, what? You know what? I just don't understand how some people that might be good people in their hearts are easily brainwashed to think, oh, God loves everybody and that being gay is okay. Right? Again, this might be because of my religious beliefs, but it's like shit, the argument back then used to be anti-God, and now they're using God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It just shows their hypocrisy. You know,
Well,
it's the same thing. It's the same thing with Hispanics. How they get brainwashed. Like for example, Obama. This is what really opened my eyes when I was a kid. Obama. I remember clear as day when he was running for president was saying he was going to help undocumented people gain their rights to citizenship. Right, and I was like, oh, that's cool. That is perfect. I think that's going to help the economy. And I think that's going to help a lot of families. Right. You're going to do the same thing Ronald Reagan wants to do. Perfect. Great. What did he do? He came out with DACA. And if you really look into DACA and you dissect DACA is nothing but modern day slavery. You know, I mean, those guys, they can't vote, they can't leave the country, but yet they have to pay taxes. And if they're bad individuals, they get sent back. I mean, if you're going to live with consequences, you might as well have rights. And if you're going to have rights, you might as well become a citizen. So why have them as slaves?
Yeah. No, something that you're saying is, attacking. So it's multiple facets. They attack the body, the mind, and spiritual, right?
Yes.
So what you're talking about is in the body is like, look at all the fake science that is out there. I'm old enough, I'm 46 now, to remember when eating eggs and steak was good. Okay. Milk was good for you. Then it flipped over to eggs are bad for you, steak is bad for you, milk is bad for you. And then I've seen those changes from my childhood to adulthood to present day and time. And I've seen the difference between, growing up in the 80s and not hearing about autism whatsoever growing up,
Yeah.
or and then just increasing the number of vaccines that are required, for children to go to school, right? And that's attacking the body. That's attacking the body because they don't want you to eat natural, like you said. They want you to purchase their synthetic foods or whatever preservatives that they put in there. I've got a kid with, grew up with asthma. The best thing that helped him, aside from, we took away all the medicine, was taking away the red dyes, yellow dyes. So he's not eating Doritos. He's not eating Cheetos. He's not drinking, orange or red Gatorade and stuff like that. Guess what? His symptoms started going away. So you tell me if what they put in the food is good or bad for them. I'm going to tell you it's bad for
Of
them. I
course.
agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it weakens people physically, and then they move on to the next one mentally. So growing up as a kid, things are confusing enough, right? And then you throw in the whole LGBTQ agenda that's being thrown at them at school, whether those hormones or chemicals in the foods are messing with their brain or not, just adding the confusion factor in school, you start making people think that there's something that they're not,
Of course.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then talk about spiritual, start taking God away from schools or anything that you do. And they start replacing it with what? What else is going to replace that? And I'm going to tell you what God did. They think that loves all gays. And and it's not going to be Jesus or anything like that. It's going to be
It's
the
the
other
enemy.
one.
Of course.
It's the enemy.
That's why
They're talking about they're talking
when I was
about
reading
Satan.
comments and said I believe in a God that loves everybody, I was like, well, there's only one God that loves everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't say, God, Jesus Christ does love everybody, but everybody has their own interpretation, and you tapped into it right now too. Is they use it to whatever point or they're trying to make with whoever they want to manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
They're not speaking the spoken word. They're
Yep.
just coming up with whatever they have to come up with to manipulate someone, to confuse them
Oh
even
yeah,
more.
and I literally was telling them, I don't know what cherry picking Protestant you are, but I'm like, I'm Roman Catholic, and I can tell you right now, God doesn't love everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I just simply told him like that.
Yeah, no, and they use that God is merciful and all that stuff, which He is. They use that in a sense to justify or condone their own sin that you know that they
Yeah,
don't want to
and
give
not only
up.
that, but I see Lutheran. My bad, bro.
No, you're good. You're good.
Did you
Am
guys
I
freeze
frozen?
up?
No, you're good. You're saying something about
Oh.
Lutheran?
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say I see Lutheran churches that fly the pride flag here in LA. I find it as a disgrace.
Yeah, that's you know the church, right? Overall leadership in churches. in a lot of churches, right, has been real weak. And you talked about COVID earlier. I think during COVID was an eye opener as far as how weak leadership of churches, how weak they were, how
Well, I mean,
they were in fear. You have faith in the Almighty God, that God is with you, God will protect you, God will, keep you healthy. You have faith in God. Like, COVID should not scare the church. You know what I
oh yeah,
mean?
no, no.
And we
I
saw
mean,
that.
even
I
then,
saw a
bro,
lot of
like,
that.
yeah, like even then, like when I go to mass, back then, there's a point in mass where you pray. We pray the Our Father, and then you're supposed to like turn around, shake some hands, say hi to your to people around
Peace be
you,
with you.
and now they literally like you're
Man,
waving at
peace, dude.
people.
Dude, we talk about that all the
You're
time.
waving at people, and you're like, bro, I'm not gonna wave at people.
that's
I
Yeah.
that's
if you want to shake my hand, I'd rather shake hands.
Well, that's the
You
attack
know.
spiritually. Look, COVID had a
Mhm,
lot of agendas behind it, and we're
mhm.
just talking about the attack, the spiritual attack part of
Yeah.
it. And that's where we've talked about it before, is that you've got to be able to recognize that. And a lot of the
Yeah.
times, it's to demoralize you. That's what keeps you down, and it keeps you from having the type of conversations that we're having right now. And I'm of the mindset, I'm an optimist, and I see all of the good things that are happening, the positive things. And if we just succumb to all the negativity that's happening around us, we would be, in a shell. We wouldn't come out of our houses and whatnot. And that's exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
But I have faith that people, I mean, not enough people, for my liking, stood up. And I don't know if you saw this, but they were trying to bring back the pandemic, and they were talking about masking up again. And actually, Long Beach was one of the cities that, before it even started, they said, "Hey, we're not locking down. We're not going to have any mandates," and they kind of
Long
laid
Beach,
it.
California.
Long Beach, California, believe it or not.
Well, I'm right next door.
That's what
They
I'm telling you.
I'm literally right across the bridge.
Yeah.
they were the
And then,
first ones
okay,
to
so
say,
did you
"Nah,
know
we
that
ain't
they're
doing that
having
again."
protests in Hollywood against the whole pedo agenda? In Hollywood, they're having protests against that.
No, the only thing I ever seen in Hollywood was the writers' protest.
Well, and that's kind of like the point that I'm trying to make, is that there's a lot of things that are happening that are really good. There's a lot of court cases that are coming down, and in favor. Second Amendment. We're Second Amendment fans, if you will, and it's been under attack for a long time, and we couldn't purchase ammo or have the firearms that we wanted to, like we've had in the past, and those rights have been slowly been taken away more and more. And there's some court rulings that are coming down that are giving us back some of those rights that they're trying to take away.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
it's funny too, because it's surprising sometimes if you hear that, like, about them protesting in Hollywood about that whole agenda thing and pedophile stuff. Um, like you said,
Well, even
Long Beach doing that, and it's like L.A. Unified School District is what's getting. They're the ones getting sued for the vaccine mandates, for firing people. And then it's moving along in a positive direction. And it's funny because it's like it's gonna be LA Unified School District teachers that are gonna open that, because we felt like for the COVID vaccine and all that shit, there has to be class action lawsuits, and they got to pay for what they did. um and it's funny because it's like LAUSD is at the center of that, and it's gonna help. If it keeps going the way it's going, it's gonna help people to get some sort of retribution for what these pharmaceutical companies did, or what these employers did to people.
well,
Right?
you're not
People.
gonna. I was gonna say you're not gonna get money from from Big Pharma. Big
No,
Pharma
no,
has laws protecting them from that. So
No,
Big
but
Pharma
check
is definitely gonna
this
have to
out.
pay.
This is the part that you're missing, is that they're ruling that it's not a vaccine, therefore
hmm
it doesn't have the vaccine um,
protections.
protection.
And
You see
that's
what I'm
that's what I'm
saying?
Right.
saying. And it's coming
Yeah.
from
Yeah. Yeah.
LA. So if if that can start in LA, I guess that's why we're more optimistic, I guess. Because we see positive things happening even in those bigger cities where you go, huh, you know what I mean? It just,
I mean, if California could give me no income tax, no business tax, I'd consider staying.
Hey, Trump dangled the carrot.
he
He said
But
did.
that
that's
in his first
federal, though.
term.
That's federal. See,
Well,
look,
No, I
you
mean,
got to remember this. If I stay in California and Trump becomes president, yes, I'm not going to have no federal income tax, but I'm still going to have state income tax. But if I go to Texas, where there's no state income tax, I'm having
then
no
you have
state income
none.
tax and no federal income tax.
Yeah,
So I'm getting the best of both worlds.
yeah. Well,
that's true.
I always say this is that you can't win the game with one Hail Mary pass. It's got to be a 5-yard run, maybe another 5-yard run. You can't take it all with the Hail Mary pass. So
Oh yeah, well I'm a baseball player, so you can't win a game. You can't hit a ball and expect a home run. You need some line drives
Yeah,
there you go.
base movement, right? So
yeah.
Yep.
but I do want to mention one thing too. You said they attack us spiritually. It's the same thing. See, I'm Catholic, right?
Hmm.
I'm Roman Catholic at that, right? I'm not Orthodox Catholic. I'm Roman Catholic, so I follow the Pope. And the thing is that they do the Pope so dirty. They treat him worse than Trump, man. Oh, trying to say that he did this with gay people, he did that, blah 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 blah. In reality, bro, all they're doing is twisting his words. If you actually see what he says and you see his interviews, it's the total opposite.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
How
I
like
think
he blessed the union of gay people. In reality, it wasn't even that. What he said was we'd bless gay people that come to our church because they're sinners. That's what they are. They're sinners. If you murder, homosexuality is the same thing as murdering someone. If they can bless a murderer, they will bless a gay person. Now they twisted those words. They twisted what he said and said that he blessed the union of a gay couple. And when they asked him that in 60 Minutes, he literally said, "No, I never said that. I said that I bless the people because they're sinners. Everyone's allowed to get a blessing.
Hmm.
Now, am I gonna, bless the union? No, you can't do that.
Hmm.
yeah.
And that's the thing. That's another spiritual attack that America has been doing for years is attacking the Catholic faith and speaking down on the Pope.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's something that we do agree with you. I mean, obviously, if someone's under attack, um, for example, Trump. Let's take Trump for an example. Is that both parties are against him, and he's an outsider. He's something that the system doesn't want, and
He's
just
not a
like
swamp.
religion, yeah, exactly. And just like religion, they gotta attack it too. Um, listen to this little thing that I had heard. So in the future, the if we want to be conspiracy theorists, um, the agenda is there to be some sort of merge between humans and um, AI. Let's just put it that way. Okay. And in order for people to accept the change that's coming, they have to stop believing in who they are. They have to reject themselves.
Yeah, the mark of
So
the beast.
so it's a process. We always talk about winning in inches. They're winning inch by inch by inch. And first is rejecting who you are. Okay. Then once that gets advanced far enough, then rejecting your body and actually mutilating, changing your body. Okay. And then just separating people. Once you start accepting those type of things and you start doing those type of things to yourself physically, you're getting closer and closer to accepting whatever agenda that they're going to present to us in the future. And that's the type of attack. It's That's where you get the physical, mental, and it all comes together for that agenda. And that's if we want to say, and follow the conspiracy theory behind it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but let me
Yeah.
bring you back to this. I actually sent this to Daniel this morning when I woke up. So I was just going through my emails, and I subscribed to some newsletters, right? And this is the headline that it was showing on one of those. Kansas sues Pfizer, says company misled public on COVID-19 vaccine. So with wins like they were seeing in LA, we're getting closer and closer, for other, cities, hopefully states to do the same thing. And, leading up to those class action lawsuits. And that's the only way that those big companies will come down is with class action lawsuits right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I think you're right. And I do want to step back a little bit. You brought up autism. And I have a
mm,
nephew or my cousin's kid that has autism. And one thing I came to realize was, like you mentioned, autism wasn't a big thing back then. But people would say, oh, like it was just because, no one knew what it was, or like people were just misdiagnosed, right? But I
mhm,
came to realize the way my cousin eats and the
mm,
way her husband eats. Now, these
mhm.
are people that live in Mexico, right? They love buying like Oreos, Doritos, all these snacks, like you said.
Processed foods. Yeah.
Now, one thing I will say is that in Mexico, it's not the same exact ingredients, so they might not have the same effects, right? Because they are a little bit healthier over there.
Mhm.
But I came to realize the way they eat. And now my nephew, he doesn't have severe autism. It's really slight. He's gonna grow up. He's gonna live a normal life. He's gonna be fine. He's just gonna be kind of slow, you could
Mhm.
say. Unless, I mean, with the proper therapy, it just kind of seems like nothing's there, right?
Yeah,
Um,
maybe a little seems like a little socially awkward type or something like that. Is that what
yeah,
you're referring to? Yeah. Okay.
yeah. But even then, when like he's just just you could say socially awkward. He's gonna be like that in the future. As he was younger, it was a little bit more like, more noticeable.
Noticeable?
But I came
Mhm.
to realize that my cousin and her husband, they eat out a lot. And when they get home, they're just snacking. They're munching on things, buying a lot of golosina, like you could say, just like I
Mhm.
said, a lot of snacks, a lot of things that aren't healthy for you. And I came to realize, I'm like, man, because out of my whole family, this is the first kid that came out autistic. Now I have my cousin. He's only 2 years younger than me. He came out obviously mentally disabled, but that was just because of some complications during pregnancy, like during actually
Mhm.
giving birth.
Mhm.
So that was because I guess a biblical cord got wrapped around his neck and he almost choked
That
during
yeah.
birth. So he just came out mentally disabled.
Yeah. Sorry to hear
But
that,
other than
man.
that, we've never had any type of mental illness in our family or no mental health issues. So when my nephew came out autistic, um, I was kind of confused, right? And my mom tried, oh, it's normal. It's rare, but it's normal. And I'm like, no, it's not normal. And I kind of just realized that it's just the way they eat. And I think that, like you said, there's a high autism percentage now because of these processed foods and chemicals. Um, and one thing I also noticed was when I'm down there was obviously how the meat is, because the meat is technically more organic down there. See, over
Mhm.
here, if I eat 10 tacos, I'm feeling bloated and I'm having to pay it back in the bathroom the next day, right? And over there, I can eat 20 and eat 10 more and wake up the next day and feel fine,
Yeah.
which is crazy, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, look at the patterns is like you know, everybody's heard that Bill Gates is buying all kinds of farmland, right? Everybody knows that by now, right? Okay. Now he's involved with what's that damn meat called? Daniel, we were talking about it the other
Beyond
day.
Meat.
Beyond Meat. So it's like artificial, synthetic, whatever it's called,
Plastic.
plastic, slime, whatever. So, and everybody's heard the stories about processing plants and poultry plants and all kinds of other, with plants with livestock blowing up out of nowhere, getting shut down and stuff like that. So you can do two things. I mean, you could put one and one together or follow the money, but there's an agenda behind that. Is that this guy that's trying to sell us artificial meat, synthetic meat, is buying farmland. So is he buying
Yeah.
farmland to grow synthetic food? or is he buying the farmland to stop, um, natural
Meat
food?
production.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, at some stage, everybody's got to put two and two together, and just going back to the optimist, side of things, is that I know that Daniel and I, even with close family members or friends or whatever the case may be, where you can have a conversation like this, we're actually having those conversations and we're actually being approached, instead of the other way around, us approaching them and talking to them about these type of things. So that's why I always pose that question, and is what are you noticing, where you live? Are you noticing a difference? People waking up, um, things like that. And everybody is in different circles, and notices things differently, depending on where they're at geographically. But the consensus that we've gotten from everybody basically is that there's a lot of eye opening. There's a lot of red pills that were sprinkled all over the place during COVID, and this pedo agenda being exposed.
You see, but here's the thing though. It's the next generation that's really going to lead the way. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, my generation is too far down the rabbit hole because they're still living at home. And as long as
yeah,
they're still living at home, they're going to continue to vote that way. So, I
yeah,
mean, I would just be encouraging parents, take them the fuck out. Make them realize what the real is, because if not, change their mind.
yeah. Hey, Daniel, it's glitching out a little bit, so I don't know if you could hear me.
Okay.
Can you still?
Yeah.
Hey,
Can you hear me?
what's that stat that you ran? And okay, so we're all Latinos, right, on the podcast. So this is kind of like showing off a little bit. But Daniel pulled up a stat before, is the highest rising demographic, as far as well, in age,
Supporting Trump.
supporting Trump, conservative, are the Latinos.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was they were above, white people and black people. But it's like what we said before. It's we're conservative naturally, so it makes sense that people start seeing a lot of this stuff here and there, and they start shifting to something that feels more natural to them, basically.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is that when something is trying to be forced so hard down your throat, um, you're bound to notice it too. It's like one of the things that I always talk about, and we're starting going now reverting back to conspiracy theories, is that the way that they had it with Obama, um, it was like it was a slow process, kind of, building people into and buying into the system, into the swamp without knowing that it's a swamp. And if you look back, again, we're old enough to remember when, you know, Bill Clinton came in. Man, he was like a freaking rock star. Everybody was buying everything that he was selling, whether it was good, bad, or whatever. Then we got a taste of Bush, um, after 9/11 and stuff like that, and it was just it's the same party. There was no change, there was no difference, and they were just playing us. Then we got into Obama, and it was the same story again. So it's the uniparty system that they had going, but everybody was sucked into it. And then Trump comes along and throws a monkey wrench in it. So I was all about, it's a uniparty. There's no difference. But when Trump came in and both sides were against him, that's what, piqued my interest, is because both parties were going against him.
Yeah,
So,
well, that's actually sparked my interest also, and that's also what made me realize, okay, well, what's the real difference between a Democrat and a Republican, right?
mhm,
And then that's what kind of made me lean to the Republican side, but then realize that there's also bad apples on that side. the rhinos.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the history is that keep saying uniparty, but that's exactly what it is. It's just modern day slavery, like you said. They were just uh, uh, giving us the illusion that we had a freedom to choose and select who was going to represent us. That's it. But it's already pre-planned. Everything is already set in stone. It's done. There's no elections. There's just elections.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's unfortunate, man. I mean, if I do believe we're living at the end we're living in the end of the United States, like the end of times for the United States, like the United States empire is falling. And that's actually another reason why I prefer living in Texas because of Texas.
Mm.
Hmm.
Hey, but let me ask you about what you just said about the fall of the United States. So I agree with you that that's what the agenda is. They want to get rid of the Constitution. Without the Constitution, there is no United States. But in your opinion, w- how is that happening? Is it just the people allowing it to happen, or is it just the agenda behind it that's making it happen?
Both, both, because a lot of people from my generation would always debate, like would always say, "Oh, we should rewrite the Constitution."
Mm,
Hmm.
And where do you think they're getting those ideas from?
yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit of both. And like I said, my generation's fucked. Another reason why I'd feel more comfortable in Texas is because of Texas, which is the Texas exit of the United States, and also because I've always believed, at least in my opinion, and I think we've seen it with the border crisis, was that if there was ever a civil war or a fallout in this country, Texas would unify and protect its own, and that's exactly what they did at the border.
Yeah.
So
And when
they didn't let
this
me
would
down on
protect
that.
its own, you're speaking about the government of Texas protecting the
Correct.
people. Okay. Because I'm telling you right now, here in California, if someone comes in and tries to do something, I'm protecting my own.
Of
Um,
course.
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
So I just wanted to
I'm
make
totally
that
with you on that.
distinction.
But the thing
Yeah.
is like, I'd rather have a whole community of people that agree than me having to fight five different libtards trying to come to my house
Hmm.
in my own neighborhood, in my own community, and then worry about everyone outside of that. You know.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have a government being like, "Look, we're gonna hold it down. You guys continue doing what you're doing, or do this, do that, but we're gonna hold it down. We're gonna make sure you guys are safe."
So, and you were talking about your podcast, right? So the message that you're trying to deliver, obviously, you're trying to wake people up, right? From maybe
But I'm waking
your
them up
your age and
in a different angle though. It's strictly business.
okay,
So I
gotcha.
explain to them why politics are good to make money and how to make money off certain policies and certain candidates.
Mm,
For example, with Trump out of nowhere because he wasn't pro crypto became pro crypto, and because of that, I'm a crypto guy. I know that by the end of the year or even next year, we're about to make a shit ton of money.
gotcha. Okay. And
So with
that,
me, it's a
that, that
little bit of a different approach. But when people actually sit down with me and talk politics, then conversations like this happen.
gotcha. But that's what I was gonna ask you is that at the end of it, a byproduct is waking people up, about the system that's going on, the swamp, whatever we want to call it, um, and you end up having that conversation.
I think he looks frozen. Not sure if
Yeah, it
he's
looks like
actually.
it froze. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's a.
As long as you guys can hear me, I think we're good.
I can hear you now.
Oh, you're back.
Oh, maybe
Cool.
he froze it.
Yeah, I guess
Oh, there you
right here.
go. I think he's breaking up again.
Yeah, I think
But
we're
no,
about to lose
I
him.
think
You know?
I get what you're saying. It's like yeah, he comes at it from a different angle, but I think you're back from a different angle, which is business. But then as you have that conversation, you know, because there's different aspects, right, to politics and all that. But at the end of the day, I think like Danny says, you end up having that conversation where you might be waking somebody up based on like, oh, I didn't know this policy affected me and my business. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It,
Oh
it
yeah. I mean,
there's no way
bro,
to
for the people
separate
that
them.
are slow right now and don't blame it on government are pretty, I think, are pretty low IQ individuals. Like if they don't realize that gas is expensive because of the Keystone Pipeline, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
realize that gas is also expensive because of war, then I think they're just really like ignorant and bliss to the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think this just goes to
But
show how
did
everything's
did you guys hear me on that
interconnected.
point or?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we got that.
Okay.
What were you gonna say, Danny?
No, the only thing that I was gonna say is that it just shows that how everything's interconnected, and even if you try to keep it separated, somehow it just still gets mixed up, um, because it's intertwined. If you talk about one thing, it's gonna lead to the next. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, the swamp is killing businesses. It's making it harder for us to make a dollar. It's making everything more expensive. It's bad policies. They're trying to destroy the country. So how are you going to make money in a country that's being destroyed? And I get it. I know a little bit about stocks, and you could short the system. So in the decline, you could still make money too. I get it. There's different things that you could, do to take advantage of situations, but at the end of it, if everything's in decline and let's say someone is prosperous with ruins around you and family members and friends being affected by it, um, financially you're okay. Everybody else might not be. Is that a life that we want to live in? I don't, but um, it's fucking complicated out there. What can I say?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, if we could change things and we could lower it for at least my generation, because I mean, it was a lot easier to buy a house back when you were growing up than when it is now. It's, I mean,
Well,
as a business owner, I
let-
was able to move out, but I know if you're working as a regular job, as a regular employee, you can't make it, bro. At least in my age.
no, no, no. It's definitely harder for your generation, and believe me, even with my generation growing up, there's a huge difference from the other generations. I mean, people that I went to school with and grew up with, you know, they're not well off. They're not in a good situation, and schools were already being infiltrated and being brainwashed in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. So what you're experiencing right now didn't start 10 years ago. It didn't start 15, 20 years ago. We're
Oh yeah,
talking
no, it started with the
you
boomers.
know 50, 60 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
So
started with the boomers.
yep. So
I mean,
we're just
I actually blame the boomers for all of this, honestly, because you want to talk about cycles, you want to talk about um, tough times create strong men create good times, and weak men create tough times. The boomers are literally the weak men, and they're the reason why we have this LGBTQ bullshit and we have all these agendas because they're the ones allowing it. You see what I'm saying? They're the ones that
yep,
had those mindsets back then. They're the ones that went through, oh, it's not good to be gay, this and that. And that's why they're allowing it to be taught and to be accepted now, is because in their day and age, America was truly conservative. But if you really think about it, in these recent years, America has not been conservative at all. At
no,
all. I mean, I think you could relate to that when you're growing up in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It was not conservative. The last time it was conservative was in the 1950s. And how long ago was that? Over 80 years ago? That's a boomer's age group. That's not our age group at all.
yeah. Well, the goalposts move all the time. So, you know, when I was growing up, you compare it to now, it was super conservative. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah. No, but I'm talking about
So,
like conservative. Conservative was 1950s,
oh yeah, for sure,
Hmm.
for sure. No,
and I
but
think
yeah,
that's
man.
that's when America started going downhill. Was after the 60s.
After the hippies, god damn
Well, the
Yeah,
hippies are created the millennials, and you can see why the millennials act the way they act.
yeah.
it. Yeah, man.
You know,
Well,
I mean, that's why I'm grateful that my parents were in a whole different country. So,
That your friends.
what was that?
Oh no, what
No, he said
I
that
think.
his parents were from a different country.
Oh, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
No, yeah.
yeah, I mean, they just grew up differently. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we can definitely see the difference. I know for my personal experience, as far as hard work ethic and values and morals and everything, I know that comes from, my parents straight up. I didn't get that, growing up here in the United States, with their morals and beliefs. So I can relate to that 100%.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I always joke around. I work as hard as a Mexican, and I'm not. Even though I am, I'm not. You know,
Yeah, no, man. Well, I mean,
people need to understand the difference between ethnicity and nationality. So,
yeah, for sure. No, man. But you know, I think if we do what we're doing now, hopefully trying to wake people up now, like you said, it works in cycles, right? So, you know, you want your kids, your grandkids to not get any worse their time. You know what I mean? So
well,
it's
that
gonna.
that just depends on yourself, bro, and that depends on your leadership.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it does, it does. But it'll. It's like right now, right? We know what we believe, what we want, and all that stuff. But we see everything around us. We live here, right? So we see everything around us that's like we just don't agree with, and we've seen the decline, like we were talking about earlier. Um, and it's like I don't want it to further decline for my kids and their kids. So it's like, yeah, it's gonna take a couple generations probably for it to maybe get back to how it was in the 1950s, right? Maybe the pendulums will swing back eventually. Um, but it's like, I'm trying to do something about their future. I know where I'm at right now. It's like, yeah, it is what it is, right? But
But it goes back
hopefully,
to what he said too. It's accountability. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
blaming the boomers and stuff like that. Okay, that's cool. But, accountability comes up is like, now this is my generation. So, what are we going to do about it type of thing. And that's where the accountability comes in.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Well, I don't know if it was your generation or um or his where you had the AB 187 or I don't know what it was where it was like they were trying to go the Republicans were still in power in California and they wanted to go illegals and then they pretty much just lost all of California because the Latinos started protesting and walking out of schools. I think
I
that was
think,
in the 90s.
mm,
Mm,
no, I don't remember that. I remember,
At least in LA it happened where kids were walking out because what they wanted to do was end services, government services like public schools and all that good stuff for illegals.
mm, no, I don't
And
remember
this
that
again,
myself.
this was when America, California was still controlled by Republicans,
hmm.
and
I'll
pretty
have
much
to look into that.
they lost California because of that bill and because of a bunch of Latino kids that were millennials walked out of schools and protested it because their parents were illegal or they were illegal.
Mm, yeah.
Hmm.
I'll send you the link, bro. Bro, CNN made a whole documentary about it and of how the
Dan,
Republicans
you
lost
just lost
California.
all credibility with saying CNN right now.
Now, again, I don't like CNN, but they made a really good documentary and it's facts. It's actually facts. So that's the only reason why I'm quoting them on this video because that documentary is actually really well put together.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, I would. Yeah, send it to me. I'll check it out.
No, check it out. It literally shows you, because as a Republican, I agree with it, right? You don't want those services to go to illegal immigrants, right? And the thing is it just explains how the Republicans lost California with this bill, and how it shifted the Latino vote to start voting, because back then Latinos weren't voting because of fear, but they at that point they felt more powerful because they felt attacked, because again the California governor was going against illegal at the time, and they took it to a personal level.
Well,
Well,
hopefully with this pedophile agenda, parents feel attacked, and we can get it right back.
But
I
again,
think we,
how many parents are falling for the, well, if my son's gay, I'm going to accept him for what he is type thing, and then their kids are being brainwashed at home, at school, and coming home with that, and then the parents are also brainwashed and like, oh, well, if that's who you are, we're going to support you. We still love you.
yeah. But ask yourself this, out of the people that you know, how many do I know that conform to that? And that's why I always say that we are the majority. It's just a fringe left that you hear that are making it seem as if they are the majority. But, in my experience from, the people that talk to and interact with, that isn't the majority. You're talking about the minority. It's just a fringe left that's, running the policies and making it seem like that.
Do you guys know what minority means?
What?
So what do you call someone that's under 18?
A minor.
Minor?
So why would you call a group of people a minority? Because you think that they can't think for themselves and they can't make decisions for themselves. That's the reason why they call us black and brown people minorities. You don't ever hear them calling Asian people minorities.
Yeah.
Depends on the
And I
context of
learned
it.
that
Yeah.
That makes sense.
from a black Southern guy that I met here in California. Because I was like, yeah, bro, we're minorities. He goes, bro, don't call us that. He's like, do you know what minorities means? And I was like, what? He's like, if you look at the actual definition of a minority, right, it starts with minor. A minor can't make decisions or think for themselves. That's why they're minors. So why the hell would you call a group of people the minority? Because
Yeah.
you think or you assume they can't think for themselves. That's the same reason why you have these Democrats talking about how black kids don't even know what a computer is,
Yeah. No, I
or
think
that don't even know how to get an ID. Joe Biden said that. He said black people and people of color don't even know how to get an ID. Like that.
Yeah.
What? Those are simple things to do. What do you mean you don't know how to do that?
Yeah. And I think we've already heard this quote too, is that, the racist party is the Democratic Party, and it's just the way that they view and approach us and try to sell us
Well, here's the
things.
thing, man. People, I took AP US history back in high school. People don't realize that in the Civil War, the general for the South was a Democrat, and the general for the North was a Republican. Again, who freed the slaves? Abraham Lincoln. He was also a Republican.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it just
And now the
shows you
Democrats
what.
try to claim them as their own.
Well, here's the thing: we were sold in elementary school that there was a magical switch, and that one day the Democrats woke up and decided to be Republicans, and that the Republicans woke up and decided to be Democrats. Stupidest shit
Yeah.
I ever heard, and I learned in AP US history that it wasn't true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And it was actually just like 5 people that actually switched party. That's it, out of hundreds.
Yeah, and one of them was Ronald Reagan, and what did he do? He actually brought the amnesty to us Latinos. So
Yeah.
for when Latinos were talking about crying about how racist Republicans are against immigrants, are you sure about that? Because if it wasn't for Ronald Reagan, my grandpa wouldn't have gotten his citizenship, and causing my dad to come over here with a green card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
You know, so it's just little food for thought, but people don't realize that the only ones that have been our friends have been the Republicans.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, man, we've been talking for a while now, and we're gonna, thank you for coming on. It was a good conversation, and it was it's good to see what you're doing. Like you said, you're coming at it from a different angle, but it's an important angle too because like we talk about Latinos, they're hardworking people, and you know, people here, especially in the state in this country now, are trying to be, or are what do you call it, manipulated into being more dependent on the government, and coming at it from a business side, it's like you kind of letting people know how to kind of free themselves up from that dependency. So, it's an angle that's needed, and you know, that's keep doing what you're doing. Cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I'm frozen, but
You,
yeah, as long
You
as
are
you can hear me,
frozen.
oh, he left. But no, man, good conversation. Thanks for everybody tuned in, and yeah, I think that's it, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, the bottom line is that there's different paths that everybody has, different perspectives. We got a young person's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and telling us what he's noticing, what he's seeing, um, and it's respectable, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's experiencing. We have kids. We've got, me myself. I've got grandkids. Look at things a little bit differently, and amongst ourselves, we talk about it too. It's the accountability piece. If we leave the United States in this state or worse, um, it's our fault. And if we leave it like that, to our kids. So, we gotta take that accountability piece and run with it, man. That's it.
Yep. Yep. Well,
did you hear me on the last one?
no, what would you say? It was cutting off at the end.
I pretty much was saying thank you for having me on, and yeah, of course, bro. Like, the approach I'm taking is a little different, but I think it is necessary also for entrepreneurs because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that might be wanting to start the business and don't understand that politics plays a big role in it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's important.
Absolutely.
Yep. Cool.
And not only that, bro, but at the end of it, bro, again, we have Trump finally becoming pro crypto and actually talking about kind of doing what El Salvador did and having America own some Bitcoin and mine Bitcoin here. So, that's going to be an amazing thing to see. That he's not the only candidate that was talking about that. We also had Ron DeSantis talking about that, and we also had Robert F. Kennedy talking about that. So, if Robert F. Kennedy or Trump become president, I would not be mad or sad about it. So.
Cool.
But
All right. Yeah.
if you're gonna ask me where my vote's going, it's gonna go for a secure win, which is Trump.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna risk it with RFK, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right
You'd
then,
be
man.
throwing
Well,
away.
so yeah, like
You said what?
you were talking about who, Danny?
Oh no, I said
I didn't hear what you said.
oh no, you'd be throwing away your vote because we before we started doing this, I was saying that Trump was going to get over 100 million votes next time around, and it's looking like it's going to be a lot more. So we'll see.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
Now,
What do
again,
you
yeah,
think?
and I
Since
do
we
agree
got
with
you,
that. That voting for RFK will be a throwing away your vote.
Yeah. No, you were
That's why
talking.
I feel like they kind of added him, and that's why they're kind of adding him is to see how many votes they could deter from Trump.
Mm,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. That
Now, it
makes
would be
sense.
crazy if they could come to terms and he's Trump's VP. Now, that would be just tremendous because if you want to talk about having the most amount of votes in an election, that would probably be it.
Mm. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see who he picks as VP. I think it's supposed to be some point next month before the convention or something
Well, I
like
mean, he
that.
has to pick someone good, man.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
has to
He
pick
does.
someone good.
Yeah. We'll see what happens on that end.
I wouldn't mind his son.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. And you were talking about church earlier and how at mass you're supposed to turn around and peace be with you. So this is how we end the podcast. Peace be with you.
peace.
All right, guys.
Later.